Where's our little countdown thing? There we go. Oh, now it started. Okay. Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Welcome to Sunday, March 9th, 2025.
Yep, daylight savings.
So what
Uh,
time is it really? That's what I would do as a kid.
what
Like, what
time
time?
do my
What's,
body
yeah,
feels like it's this
yeah,
time? Yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
More light is coming.
Mhm.
Later light.
Mhm.
More things illuminated.
Yes, within and without. Yes.
Let's just be totally esoteric. Let's just go like feelings
Well.
and closure and the depths. The depths and the resistance and the, yeah.
Mm. And what is knowing anyway? No,
What is knowing?
the funny thing is that is exactly how like. I mean, I said that, but I was said it in that voice because I feel that way and I mean that, and
Mm-hmm.
and that is how I like
Yeah.
think in my head, and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
you came up with the title.
Well, I
What?
thought I like when we have
Yeah.
specific titles, but
Because now it's
often
meaning a lot to me.
often we
So.
don't know. Often we don't really know what we're going to talk about. We don't plan
Yeah.
these, and so I think the last couple times we didn't have a title, and I
Well,
was like, oh, that's kind of whatever. I like that,
yeah.
and I chose a title that I feel is true all the
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, it's going to apply tomorrow because
Mm-hmm.
it's true every day in every
Yeah.
moment. So yeah, which is just and it is a thing that the dreams teach. For me,
Mm-hmm.
the dreams teach and God and love and whatever, and just the experience of being alive, um, and teach, which is
Mm-hmm.
like, and I'm sure y'all have heard people say it, which is the only, for me, the only thing I know is that I always know less than I think I know, and as each day passes, that's just compounds.
Mm-hmm.
And and it is a thing that could sound like cliche or trite or whatever, but it's one of those things that's really deeply true,
Mm-hmm.
and feels, and if for me, if I take a second with it, like there's a lot there, and
Mm-hmm.
the feeling of it is different every time,
Mm-hmm.
and the reason it can come up in my head of like that awareness, is like because something has happened, a shift has happened inside me, or sometimes something's happening in
Mm-hmm.
waking life where I'm like, in conversation with someone, and something is different, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, or I have some sort of new awareness, and often it's connected to like, oh, I thought that I knew that, but I really didn't know that at all,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah.
Yeah. I'm like chomping at the
Okay, what's
bit.
up?
Well, the thing that I'm feeling like I just discovered, it feels so new. And it kind of came up today. We do a writing class, and we just had a writing class. And like the particular way, because I also was looking through old dreams of mine this morning, sort of by accident. I opened up my whole document and I was like, oh my God, this dream from 7 years ago. Now I read it and I feel all this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm picturing, because at first I was like, well, the fairies do always know. Like, the dreams do always know. So the title, like, didn't make that much sense to me. Like, what if we don't know anything, said the fairies?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, oh, the fairies don't know what's going on. And I'm like,
Oh.
they always. But then I was like feeling this thing that we talked about a little bit about how, in some ways, the dreams don't know. Like, they do know, but they also are figuring out how to meet us.
Mm-hmm.
So they shift. So it's almost like the fairies are like, oh, we gave him that dream. Ooh, we got to
Mm-hmm.
come from this angle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we didn't,
Mm-hmm.
we tried that and it didn't work.
Right. I mean, I feel like I've talked about this a bit,
Mm-hmm.
or I feel like this has been a long, not to be like I,
Yeah.
woo. But like
You
there's
already
a joke.
knew. Yeah.
No, but
Yeah.
there's a joke that
Yeah.
I feel like I've said for years, which is like saying like the dreams came in and they were like, oh, all right,
Yeah.
that one didn't get through. Okay, hang on.
I've
Like we're
yeah.
like an animated movie of like Inside Out or whatever.
Yeah.
Like the dreams could, the archetypes and
I never
could be
felt
that
before.
and be like,
yeah.
yeah, okay, hey,
Yeah.
Sid, remember that time you had that idea? Let's do that.
That totally feels
Let's do-
new to me and like wonderful.
You know,
Yeah.
and they're like, all right, we're gonna try that one, load that one up for
Yeah.
tonight.
Yeah.
You know, and just like
Yeah.
the amount of love that's there, you know, which is just like,
Yeah.
so, and that goes along with the feeling and the awareness that again, another awareness that grows and grows, which is the level of patience, like the dreams and the archetypes and the archetypal world, and there's no time, so
Yeah.
they're not like impatient. I'm the one who's impatient. My ego or whatever is impatient.
I think the thing that's new for me, like with all this, is that I feel so much like with them, like the dreams are working with me, as opposed to like, oh, you'll like for me, the projection of shame has been like, well, you just don't get this yet. You'll get this. We know more than you.
Gotcha.
It's like the dreams are like, we know more than you. All right, you'll figure out that we were doing the right thing. Like that projection of shame. And so now I'm like, we're all kind of in it. Like, I just feel like me and the dreams, we're all in this together. You know,
Right.
it's like, yeah, there's just something I feel so amazed by right now that they're actually like working with me. But in a way, I projected the working with me was like, oh, I'm not quite getting it. Whereas now they're more interested and curious in what my experience is of it. And that's like the thing that I'm feeling with working with my clients now. Because my defensive hubris would be like, but here's where the dream is showing you. And how do I get the client to see what the dream is showing them? And now I feel really different, which is like, I'm not sure. Like I even had that with a client last week. I was like, I was so comfortable being in the dream with the client, in the session with the client, where they had a dream and I didn't really know what was going on. And I didn't have to like, I better figure out what the dreams are trying to tell them so I can, it was like,
so I can tell them what the dream's trying to tell them.
Yeah,
And then
and so now it's like the dreams, the fairies don't know everything, but they're never not curious. Like they're always coming back to be like, all right, like they do know. It's this paradox, right? Like they do know the path of healing in a way that we don't understand what the path is, but they also like have to adjust to help us on the path.
right.
Like, well, we're
And-
actually not going to take that route up the mountain. We tried it, so we're going to go back down, and we're going to see there's another more leisurely route that we can take. Like that's, yeah.
Right. What I can feel as you're talking is like, I'm like, oh, I can feel my own embedded judgment, you know, that I bring, you know, that I brought, like when you were talking about the dreams, and it's like, well, I guess she didn't get that. Like I project judgment, you know, my own projection of judgment onto the dreams and stuff, which really was not helpful.
Yeah.
And is so,
Yeah.
you know, not true, or it's just not the truth or whatever. But also like in that little metaphor, I can feel the judgment of like, oh, you know, that wants to get projected. Like we got to go back. We got to double back. Like
Same
as though,
dream again.
right? And it's like, but that's not. It's like that's me as the human.
Yeah.
The dreams are like, it's more like if I were making the animated movie,
Yeah.
they would be like, yeah, okay, let's go back down that one path.
And it's
like,
also,
okay,
yeah.
you know, it's all the great enthusiastic love is my experience, is my own experience, and also like the dynamism of you know being of how the dreams work. It's such a dynamic experience. It's not like if this then that, this equals that. It's not that at all.
And there's,
you know,
I'm reminded of the album Sign of the Time by Prince, because I got the cassette I stole, sort of. I was working at this record store in San Francisco, and they had like a defect bin. Like people would bring in like this didn't work, and so there'd
Mhm.
be this defect bin. And so I wasn't that big a Prince fan, but there was a cassette of Sign of the Times, and I took it because I was like, I don't know if we can take it or not take it, and it doesn't work anyway. But it worked fine. I have no idea what the problem was. So I listened to that on my Walkman. This is 1988, over and over and over again, and I would always hear something new. I would
Mhm.
always be like, whoa, I
Mhm.
didn't notice that
Mhm.
before.
Mhm.
Like, that to me is the most kind of profound experience. Like, it's happened again,
Mhm.
watching a movie a second time.
Mhm.
Like, oh, I didn't even fucking notice that. That's partially like what I'm feeling in terms of the dreams, the
Mhm.
cycle of the dreams. Like, we have this dream that's like, oh, here I am doing that thing again that I know better
Mhm.
than to do in the dream. Like,
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
looking for this particular type of woman in the dream,
Mhm.
or I can't find my car keys again, or I called
Mhm.
911 in the dream. You're not supposed to call 911. Like,
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
doing it again. And
Mhm.
what I'm feeling so differently today, as of like March 9th, 2025, is like the beauty of the dream kind of didn't know what to do. Like, the dream tried this thing, and like,
Mhm.
oh, so now we're going to play it again. Now that you're
Mhm.
ready to hear it, we're going to
Mhm.
play this
Mhm.
thing again. Like,
Mhm.
how are you still calling 911 in
Mm.
your life? It's not like to
Mm.
stop calling
Mhm.
911. It's like, oh, that when I did this thing this week, that was calling 911, and I
Mm.
didn't realize that that was it.
Mhm. Mhm. Right, right, right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
And so the fairies are like, yes, we got it right this time. Like, the way we did it with him worked this time.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
talk about everything's gonna be okay. Like, that's kind of
Mhm.
what it feels like. There's like, because I've experienced so much pressure. Like, that's part of my experience of my trauma, is feeling pressure,
Mhm.
and like that being like, my dream is being held by my father as a little boy. It's like there's no pressure at all. Like, it's just
Mhm.
so being held,
Mhm.
and it's like that is like, my central nervous system has never felt this. It's
Mm.
never felt this,
Mhm. Mm.
of just being a boy being held
Mhm.
by his dad. Like, it's
Yeah.
never that my central nervous system is now feeling this, and from that place, it's like, everything is curious. Like, from that place, I feel like I'm just curious about
Mhm.
everything.
Right, because you don't have to be right or know
Yeah,
like
yeah,
shit or
yeah,
whatever, like have it figured out
yeah,
or have the reason
yeah,
or yeah.
yeah. We
Yeah.
could have called this, "Oh shit, we don't know shit," said the
Well,
fairies.
you just reminded me of my original title actually. It was different. I don't know why.
Uh-huh.
It was what if everything's going to be all right? Like, which
Mm-hmm.
is funny cuz I was looking for
Mm-hmm.
like images
Mm-hmm.
anyway and I was like I couldn't. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's funny. So that's coming up as well, you
Yeah.
know.
I love this title because it also evolved for me this morning.
Mm. Yeah, there is some song that I was looking for and I couldn't find it, and it was
Mm.
like, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, it'll be all right,
Oh,
it'll
the
be
Beta
all
Band.
right. Oh, that's
If there's
it.
something
Yes,
inside that you
yes. What
wanna
did I
say,
say? Yeah,
say it all night.
it'll
It'll
be
be okay.
okay.
I will
It'll
be. I will be
be.
your light. I will be your
Yeah,
light. I will be
that's
your
what I
light.
wanted. I wanted to
I
put
will
that
be
song
your
up
light.
for
Yeah.
the podcast, and I couldn't. I
Yeah.
got distracted. I
Yeah.
couldn't find the song, and
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that it sounds like it'll be all
Mhm.
right, because it's
Mhm.
not the
Mhm.
lyric. It's which is
Oh.
yeah, the lyric is, "I will be your light."
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
If there's
that's
something
cool.
inside, that song
And the
stuck with
whole.
me. Yeah, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I could just sing that song for the next 20 minutes. There's something inside that you wanna say. Because I remember I was at a dream, like a men's group dream retreat, and
Mhm.
that song was just like in my head, and I
Mm.
was sort of, I think I said it or something, and this guy was like, "Is there something you want to say?" Like, I don't know. Like, no, I don't know. Like, now I have to figure out something to say. Like, what am I trying to,
Right.
like,
Right. Right.
yeah, if there's something
Yeah.
inside that you want to say.
Yeah. I once said something. I was talking to someone about my ears, like having
Mm-hmm.
chronic ear things when I was a kid,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like, Is there something you didn't want to hear? And I was like,
Probably.
I was like,
Yeah, like what? Yeah,
I,
that's that. Yeah, like that book.
and then
Yeah,
and then I proceeded to think
yeah,
literally for 2 weeks that I was the
yeah.
that my
It's
chronic debilitating an ear pain that is to
yeah.
this day, including childbirth without
Mhm.
drugs, the worst pain I've ever physical pain I've ever
Right.
felt in my life.
What did
And
you?
that
What are you not listening to?
right, you know.
That's why your ears hurt. Like it's funny because there is some truth to how
Right.
things manifest in our body. But I remember this book when I was in. I mean, we may have talked about it, but there was this book when I was in college when I was sort of first getting into like wellness and spirituality and all this stuff, and it was like the list of ailments and what they meant
Oh
on
yeah.
a psychic level.
Oh whoa. Let's get that book back.
It was so intense because I was like, oh, if you're depressed, it
Then-
means you haven't done. I was
Right,
like, all
right.
right, I got done. Oh my god, I can't I can't do
Yeah.
that. It's like
Yeah.
if you have like pain in the tip of your pinky,
Right.
it's because when you were 11.
Was it-
No,
yeah,
but
yeah,
it was
yeah,
like
yeah.
I'm kind of joking,
Yeah,
but it was
yeah.
of that thing.
Yeah.
Like this is happening to you because, which from a perspective, I guess it could be helpful, but for me at that time, it was really not because I felt so much responsibility
Right.
and shame
Yes.
that I needed to do something different,
Yeah.
and that's just broken recently.
Mm.
But it's like, oh my god, yeah.
Well, it's this. It reminds me of like a traditional dream dictionary.
Yeah,
You know, where
yeah,
I'm like,
you're right.
but I did have those. You know,
Right.
and Jennifer Esway got me one as a gift for my birthday and gave it to me on the bus. And this is a person who I reference and her name comes up because I felt safe enough around her to tell her and how much I love dreams
Right.
when I was in junior high.
Right.
And she like and she what's the word? She acknowledged that, you know, and she gave me for my birthday one year a dream dictionary. And you know, and it's like, you know, it was like I think I don't know, I've seen it all around, you know, and it's like you just look it up and it
Right.
means every single person I have a dream about
Yeah.
a bluebird and you dream it's the same thing,
Right.
you know.
Right. The bluebird is.
And it's
That's
like, and
the-
I would look and I'd be like, that doesn't
Yeah.
feel right, you know. But then I'd be like pouring over, like, wait, but am I wrong? You know, it's
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me of the what I told you about yesterday. The client who had this dream with kids in it, and I'm like, well, the goal of the dream. I'm thinking to myself, the goal of the dream is always to be the child.
Right.
Right.
So,
And so I was like, okay, what does it feel like being the child in the dream? Which is never like a bad question. It's like,
yeah.
and she was like, because these children were doing this thing that she was really scared someone was going to get hurt that they were doing. And I was like, oh, you're projecting that people are going to get hurt. This is your anxiety. What does it feel like being the child? And she's like, it feels free and fun. I was like, exactly.
Yes, bingo.
So when
got
you
it.
don't project,
Check.
yeah. But then then she came in the next session with an experience that she had had this week and a different dream that was so. It just showed that the children in her dream were actually, they were acting out. There was a pathological trauma response by them in the dream. So what they were doing was actually shadow. It was actually pathological. They were actually trying to be seen by doing something really dangerous, which is what kids with trauma often do. And so it wasn't like, because I was like, what they're doing isn't that dangerous. Like, you're just projecting. And there might be, well, as we work it, that may start to happen, right? But her dream was about not looking up and seeing. Because when she looks up and sees, then she creates all this distress for herself.
Right, and she kind of leaves herself or
Yeah,
whatever.
she leaves herself and has to try to fix the problem. So there was an example this week of how she got this information that she didn't know all the information about because she got it before she needed to, which was she found out what mail was coming before the mail came. so that was her version of looking up
Mm-hmm.
because it wasn't a great letter, but she
Mm-hmm.
didn't really know what the letter said. It was just from one of those like scary organizations. If you get, you'd prefer not to get a letter from, but it could be good news or it could be bad news. It could be the tax department being like,
Or it
guess
could
what? We fucked up with your taxes and we owe you $3.2 million. Like,
right.
but for her, the 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 children weren't the children weren't her soul children. They were the pathological, traumatized kids who were acting in this way. So her just having fun is not what is not the place.
Right. Right.
She actually has to not get drawn into that and instead beautifully be with her dog who passed away and dig into the dirt. So instead of looking up,
digging
down, she's like, I was like, what do you feel? She's like, I'm so curious. Like, exactly. Like, so opening up to the curious and the support of the dog, which is the psychopomp, which helps lead us into the archetypal realm, which is the place of not knowing and love and healing. It was like, holy shit. But if it was Dream Dictionary,
right,
children mean your soul. Children are your soul. Be the
yeah.
How are you not having fun on the roof? Like,
right, and just thinking too much about a thing is just not helpful.
Yeah.
It's like, it's because also our idea as people who have separated from ourselves, as adults, the idea, basically, kids are ideas to us. It's like we have these ideas about kids, and
of what they are,
yes,
what
and
doing,
project onto them so much. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, look at the children. They're so
wise.
Of course, they just want ice cream.
Children, and they know everything.
They're skipping through fields of daisies. This is me. I'm gonna wear a funny bow and paint my face funny because I am, and that will mean that I'm, because I'm turning into the soul child. But that's not.
I know. Well, it also reminds me too. Like, there's just all these layers that are coming up, which was like the Generation X. Like this, at least my experience of it, specifically with my mom, but like with all of my friends' parents. But my mom said it specifically, which is that children know how to raise themselves. So there's like an example my godmother told me of, like, I was like crawling on a table and my godmother was like, you need to be careful, he's going to fall off. And my mom was like, children know what they're doing. Like, children, children can raise them. Like, they have such wisdom that we don't have, which is so fucked up. It's so fucked up.
So painful. Like,
and it's part of the Generation X thing where our parents were just like, go off and play. Like, but guess what? It's fucking New York City in the 70s and you're letting us wander the streets, right? This is not the children's playground. So there's that piece too.
Yeah.
And what was that for my mom? That she knew everything, including that kids can raise themselves bullshit. Yeah.
Well, it's convenient. It's a convenient stance to take when you don't want to be a part of,
you learned a lesson. No, like, you fucking put me in a dangerous situation. Yeah, you didn't take care of me. Yeah.
Right. I should say that, that's a good stance to take if you don't have the ability to support or love another, person.
Right. It worked well for my mom.
Yeah,
because then I was responsible. Well, there it ties back, right? Then I'm responsible for
everything.
The situation I've gotten in.
Yeah.
Children know how to raise themselves, so when you're clinically depressed when you're 16,
it's your fault.
Yeah. Like, well,
you
knew how to raise yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so diabolical.
Oh, that makes my belly feel weird, like hollows out gives me that like yucky feeling in my
You're going dorsal.
belly.
You're going dorsal vagal. Yeah. It's a real disempowered experience to like have to sit in that for myself.
Yeah. What else?
I'm
I
sorry,
don't
I'm eating my breakfast.
know. You're drinking your breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Any
know.
questions? The audience? Any
Aw.
questions from the audience? Yeah. What a pleasure to not know. Like, what a
Mm,
pleasure to be able to be in the world and not know. Like,
mm.
what a fucking pleasure. And that's brand new to me.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, it's like it is a pleasure, but that feels like a couple layers down. Like just the ability to even entertain not knowing is the
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
Is like the first step. Is like,
Uncertainty equals death.
oh, is right. Is
Yeah.
like, wait, maybe I. You mean I? And that's part of this is part of what dreams do. Is like
Mhm.
it's like, oh wait, it's like bring us things where we think we know,
Right.
or we think we're sure about.
Right.
And like question that.
Right.
Help us question and be like, oh, I thought I thought my whole life for me I thought my whole life story was true.
Right.
I was walking around being like, yes,
Yeah.
blah blah,
Yeah.
family of four, father owned his own business, mother,
Mhm.
was worked for father, like just whatever it was. And then all of a sudden the dreams were like questioning and questioning and questioning, and I was
Mhm.
like, oh wait. And it took a long time for me to it was like the disengagement of that story, and like how deep the plugs that
Mhm.
things were plugged in was like it took time to and I
Mhm.
and again I can feel now the care that the dreams took to like inch me in to pull this circuitry apart, because it was like the main plug.
Mhm.
I just had
Right.
one of the dreams.
Right.
I realized one of the dreams I'm working with now is like something is plugged into me, and it's all this blood moving through this tube, and I feel
Mm.
like, and it was like this plug is one of the plugs that had to get disengaged before the other plug,
Mhm.
got plugged in, which was like,
The good
this is
plug.
what you thought is
Mhm.
not actually your experience.
Right.
Like this story that you've developed because you had to, because it was too all the pain and like is
Mhm.
too hard, the pain and the fear, and is too much. So
Mhm.
like you develop this story, and like so now it's like ding 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 ding, taking
Mhm.
that out and taking that out, and it's like, oh
Yeah.
wait, but if that's not true, then what is true?
Right.
And so that's like to be like, oh, how wonderful not to know is like, then I had to go through the incredible terror of like, holy shit,
Right.
what I thought was my life and my reality is not true.
Mhm.
And then it gets to, oh, who I thought I was
Mhm.
is actually not who I am.
Right.
And like,
and,
what the fuck?
and for me, in fact, who you think you are, is not helpful
Right.
to
Yeah.
you. Like, so for me, I was like, I had these intellectual parents, and so I was an intellectual. Like, I remember calling my mom. I was at UVM, and the UVM had like a conference of intellectuals, like like Cornell West, and so
Perfect.
it was like this. It was like a lot of intellectuals are coming, and I remember saying to my mom, like, "Oh, I'm becoming an intellectual, and it's so intense." And I was like,
Like, oh.
yeah, like okay, and me being an intellectual is because the combination of my trauma and severe ADHD meant I didn't actually do anything or produce anything. So, but I thought about it.
Yeah.
I thought about
Thought
it,
about lots of stuff. I mean,
and
that's
yeah, and so because that was
I'm not ready because I still have more things to think about before.
right, or no, it was more like okay, like at one point I figured it all out, which was I figured out that everything was either good or bad. Like
Okay.
things were good or they
Yes.
were bad,
Yeah.
and that everything, even music, like this song is not good,
Mm-hmm.
or this song is good,
Yeah.
and like everything was from that frame of like Jesus fucking Christ.
Well,
right.
welcome to the new age.
So me being an intellectual was such a protection, but it was part of what made me so depressed. It was my way of coping with being so scared, was like that I would know everything, which is exactly what my parents were like. And so that's I think why I'm so excited now with like not needing to fucking know anything, because it's such a healing of my trauma.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
the thing that I've also realized about kids is like a healthy child's uncertainty turns into curiosity, right? And that's like, holy shit. So now, like, something comes up and I'm not sure what to do. I start, and I can feel a little bit of that contraction, like, uh-oh. But then I'm also like, ah, cool. Like, there's actually an excitement in it. Just like with my client who's with her dog, it's like she's digging into the dirt instead of the other part. Like, because when she in the dream, she's like carrying this really heavy thing with like a few people. It's and they have to put it down, but the dog's digging where they're supposed to put it down. So like, get out of here, God. You know. So she literally is able to let go of all this weight to put this fucking thing where it's supposed to be, and instead feels that, and she immediately was like, I feel so like excited and curious, which for her, you know, that's her version of something similar. Like we don't know anything, and our brains in trauma try to fucking figure things out.
Well, right, which is, as you said, the heavy thing, which is related to carrying this very heavy thing, and what to, and the other great question is like, what do you know about that? You know, what's, and like how, and just really like feeling that, like you know, my heart is like, whoa, you know, that, you know, you need help carrying it, and just like, and it's so heavy and so burdensome, and then so many things that go along with that potential.
Who am I going to find to help me carry this? I need to be supported out in the world. Like this weight is too much, and I need someone to help me with it. And that's like, no, you can be the dog being curious. Like that's not archetypal support to help you carry the heavy thing.
Right, and also the benefit, the great benefit, and part of the healing, an essential part of the healing is to, as you said, with seeing where we still are doing things, you know, seeing where in your life you're lifting where you're carrying that weight, and really get to know that place with like excitement and love and like curiosity. Bring that dog's curiosity also to the weight, and when, because then that will open up. You know, so much.
I just like, oh, I'm doing that thing again. Okay, I noticed I'm doing that thing. I noticed I'm trying to think of like what a version of it for me right now is. I mean, it's like what you and I talked about. It's like, am I speaking from a place of the lawyer or not? Like I'm starting to really see when I'm doing it, and I'm not always sure. And I know that part of my process, like with my astrology chart, is like the boy's communication. But that can be so corrupted by the like, I know something.
Right.
Place.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, well, if I'm speaking, because I spent so many years sort of also not speaking, you know, it's so complicated, because I was like the intellectual who knew stuff, but I also didn't speak, you know, like, and so the communicating from that place of the boy, it's cool. I don't know when I am or not. Sometimes I really do. Sometimes I'm like, well, don't say that. And sometimes like, I don't fucking know. So I'm going to choose to say it.
Right, err on the side of speaking.
I'm going to err on the side of speaking, which is what I do more. And then I learn when not to speak. When I err on the side. Because I see what the reaction and response is to it.
Well, or you have a dream, your dreams will
Right.
help hone, you know, continually help hone that.
That's absolutely true. And I get to see when it's ineffective in the world.
Right.
Which is like, then I'm the lawyer. Like, you know, which is not to say I'm not going to tell someone to fuck off if I need to set a boundary. But
that's so interesting. Until this moment, I never really realized how similar, because I really buried my place of deep knowing, you know, that like, and my deep knowledge and my deep place of speaking from like, you know, my truth, and what I did instead was talked a lot from the like that Hello Kitty, you know, my persona cheerleader place of just like really talking a lot from there. but never ever, you know,
Hmm.
spoke from,
Right.
said anything that really mattered, you know, and
Mm.
certainly, I mean, that would be the death of me, truly. I felt that that would be the death of me if I spoke about something that
Right.
I truly cared
Right. Like you
about.
gave the example with the TV show idea.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And how that was received.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting because I feel a parallel kind of with you. It's like
Mm-hmm.
now, once the dreams blew open, the lid off.
Yeah.
That with the talking from this place of just like
Mm-hmm.
incessantly talking as a way to manage my trauma. I stopped talking. You know, because I was
Right.
like, I don't know what to do, so
Right.
I'm just gonna, stop
Yeah.
talking. And then it's been this, just this kind of path to, speak to coming
Yeah.
back to speaking from a different place.
Yeah. It's like talking is a mechanism of protection.
Mm-hmm.
Like talking or not
Mm-hmm.
talking
Mm-hmm.
as a mechanism of protection.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that's, I think, it's so great because you're like, I'll say something and you're like, ooh, that made me kind of uncomfortable. And in the past, I would have been like, well, she doesn't know, like, da-da.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm like, huh, what did I feel when I said that thing? What did I
Mm-hmm.
feel?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have a judgment around it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I can feel
Right.
like tinges of like, no, but Amy,
Mm-hmm.
I knew, like,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just like, oh, like, when I said that thing in the writing class, I get to really check in
Mm-hmm.
with how it feels when I say it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so cool. And for me, what happens, and I had this experience on Friday, is I'm having a whole new experience, like in life, just like being.
Mm-hmm.
So just the way I feel, I think I said this last week, but it's the way I feel just in everyday life is so different that I can't not be aware of it sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this is just so weird because I'm going back to the same, I go to the co-op a bunch and I'm suddenly in the co-op. Well, that hasn't translated to the co-op. I don't really like the co-op that much. I'm like, just get me out of here is how I feel in the co-op.
Mm-hmm.
But at Shaw's, I'm like, oh, I go over to this case and get the grapefruit juice all the time, and like literally that I'll be like, this is so weird. Like I feel tripped out. I'm like, why do I feel so different? Like so and that's just something I'm so grateful for, in a way. Shoot, did I lose it? Oh, so I I've been feeling so goofy, like really, really goofy and like funny, funny and fun, and which is really for me how that's to me that's me. I'm just like, but I'm feeling like really goofballish, which has only ever come out with very few people, and really like it's a place I want to cry. Not talking about it. It's like a place I really like have held very close to me, and but it's like it was like coming out, and I was like, whoa, like I was so scared, like when it was coming out, like on Friday when I was at work. It was like, and I was like, stop, like it, I could feel this place that just wanted to shut down, of like this terror, just of like that's not okay, like shut those gates, these thick metal gates, like shut and lock those gates. And then I was kind of like felt that, and then I was like, oh, this was me just being in my persona. I was going back up into that cheerleader place, like that. I better stop that, like that's bad. That, remember, that's bad. Good is being quiet and serious, or whatever, good is being just the perfect amount of funny, just a little bit goofy, instead of like this, and I literally also, because I fell and like was bleeding, whatever, had a good fall, and I literally was like, maybe I have brain damage. I was like,
While
that's
you're
where,
being goofy.
yeah.
You're like, oh, yeah.
like,
TBI, because
yeah.
I've heard that people with TBIs get goofy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
all that, and just like taking a couple days, and then I met a sweet, person who I shared that with, and they said, "You seem," they said, "Well, you seem fine to me," like in the sweetest way, Thank you so much. That was just so like very cute, and like it's good. It's good to have humor, and it's good to feel all the things, and to also be, speaking of, on the theme of not knowing also, and like the same with you and the speaking and the lawyer versus like the more discerning thing, or the lion, is like, okay, like I'm holding all this in my awareness,
Right.
and I am having dreams, and and also trusting, like I don't need to know, because I know that I will receive a correct, the dreams will come and be like, hey, okay, so check this out.
They really
and will inform my experience.
Right. They really will.
Yeah.
They really, really,
Oh,
really
they will. They are.
One thing we can count on. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and there's something so freeing in that, because now that I don't feel project judgment onto the dreams, and like, that the dreams are telling me I'm bad or whatever, and I can just feel that they're like, I love you so much.
Right. We don't know what we're fucking doing. Exactly.
Look at this, though.
Yeah, we don't exactly know what we're doing either. But we'll try this one this week, and then if it doesn't work for you, we'll figure it out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We know another way, because because like Andrew Libby's over here from before.
Yeah.
And we'll bring him in, because he's always a go-to.
Yeah. Like, well, we'll try using Beyonce again to see. Like my dream this week, I'm like Taylor Swift is there, and I'm holding her hand. Like they're trying to see what what is that?
Right, but I mean, Johnny Depp used to be the animus, and for me now he's not at all. He's like totally, completely, so that's like a fun thing too. It's like you can have, it's like, oh, I'm like, no, not all, like, I can't believe that was ever the animus for
like
me.
I had Joel Embiid of the Sixers be the animus, and he's such a jerk. I now know. He's not showing up as the animus again. He was powerful, raw.
Yeah.
So.
And just also one of the things I was thinking yesterday, on the way down the hill to the other writing group, was how I was going to even joke, like, how much I appreciate when famous people or the songs come in our dreams. And I had like two things, I have a person singing a song to me as a part of my dream. And it's so poignant, because I can play that person's music, and it is so powerfully puts me into the place of my homework. Brings me into that place inside, like in such a visceral way, and I can be walking around in the world listening to the music, and it's so like extra, like electrifying and stuff. And so it's fun. So you could be like, oh, like then I would watch a Johnny Depp movie, and I would, and that would, so use the projection,
as it is. And now we're gonna do something else. I really have to pee.
We're done.
We're done. We don't know shit. All right. Thank you all. We'll see you again next week.
Bye.
Bye.